Hello, everybody, and welcome to Matchday Matinee, where we take our love for football and cinema and talk about all the movies that are available in the world of soccer. My name is Raghav, and I'm joined by Mark and Adam. How are you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, not too bad. How are you?
Very good, very good. You know, still just just enjoying myself in self-isolation. But there are two big soccer movie news stories that came out over the last week, and the first one is that there might be a potential goal for, as confirmed by Kuno Becker. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, it
Pretty
seems
exciting stuff.
Yeah, he hated goal 3 as much as everyone else did, so that's good to see that he wants to see changes from that. I think he had a few choice quotes about it as well.
Yeah, he did not like it all. Called it shit.
Oh wow.
It's interesting though, right? Like that he felt like, because when the goal movies were announced as like a trilogy, it was meant to be this big thing that would culminate in him being at the World Cup and stuff. And by the time they actually got around to 3, it's like they literally didn't care. And
he was injured, right? He missed the World Cup because he was injured.
Yeah, he missed. Yeah, and it wasn't even about him really at all. But yeah,
it's weird how you build it up over 3 movies and then he gets injured.
Well,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
Well, I wonder if he's going to play the main soccer player now, because I mean those movies came out a while ago, right? So he must have aged since then.
No, he's written a script and he intends to play the coach of the team.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's
so
really
he's
cool.
Actually he's a director now, I believe. He's directed a few Spanish language films, I think.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe he's half Mexican, half German, or something like that. So. No, that's awesome. No, so really looking forward to Goal 4, and hopefully it's more true to the idea of the first 2, which I really enjoyed, and I'm sure we'll talk about on this show eventually. But the other movie that's actually, which is apparently a Netflix production, is a story about the 1999 USA Women's World Cup team. So players like Mia Hamm, they're going to be featured in a feature film format. So that's going to be really exciting and something that American audiences can connect with and relive.
Yeah,
it's been cool again. Netflix seems to have this knack at finding stories in places, don't they, and making shows about them. And like good adaptations, because I guess there's a book called Girls of Summer, I think it's called. This is an adaptation of that book that tells that story. It's been interesting.
Top of your heads, who can you guys see playing Mia Hamm and tearing off the shirt into the infamous sports bra?
I know. So I was saying Hilary Swank before the show, but she might not fit the mold of a young Mia Hamm.
Nope.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I don't really know who there is.
Ooh, what about that Alicia Vikander?
Oh, yeah.
She played Tomb Raider, so she's pretty fit.
She might be good. One name I saw pop up that was pretty good is Daisy Ridley. Ray from Star Wars. Yeah, that might work.
I could see that.
Haley Stanfield, who was the girl from Edge of 17, I think it was, Bumblebee. Popular American star. She might be good. Yeah, I mean, there's... thankfully, a number of female actresses to choose from these days. It's not just Angelina Jolie and one other random actress. So
yeah,
should be
Sandra Bullock.
Maybe, maybe we'll see Keira Knightley relive some of her soccer skills again in this movie.
Yeah, how old is she? Mid-30s.
Mid-30s, yeah. I don't think. Yeah, I think she can still fit the mold, and if she can put on an American accent, that'd be great. Yeah, she already has a skill. As we saw at Bend It Like Beckham.
Yeah. Well, I still want to see the Bend It Like Beckham sequel.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
NWSL coaches, yeah.
It'd be awesome if they actually made that into a TV show. Kind of like a BBC One production or, whatever it is. And us being able to watch it in that format instead of a movie. I think Adam was saying that during during the recording of that episode.
Yeah, remake it for the 21st century.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, since things have definitely changed. But enough about the movies that will potentially come out. Today we are going to talk about a very special movie. Mark, it was your pick this week, so why don't you go ahead and introduce the movie?
É verdade. E acho que algo maravilhoso acontecia quando ele jogava. Tudo se fundia. E era só ele.
So on the matinee for today's episode is Diamantino. It's a 2018 fantasy comedy drama co-directed by Gabriel Abrantes and Daniel Schmidt. Bit of the plot synopsis here. When big-hearted but vacuous Portuguese soccer hunk Diamantino, played by Carloto Cada, learns about the European refugee crisis, it shatters his sheltered worldview and drains him of the idyllic ignorance that fuels his athletic prowess. Becoming a national embarrassment overnight, he resolves to make amends by adopting an African refugee, only to find that his new son is actually an undercover lesbian tax auditor investigating him on the suspicion of corruption. So to round out the cast are Cleo Tavares as an undercover agent, Ashia Brito, and sisters Annabella and Margarita Moreira as Diamantino's cutting sisters, Sonia and Natasha Matamoros. This is a Maria and Meyer production, comes in at about 96 minutes, and it's actually available to stream on the Criterion channel. So what are some first thoughts before we dive into the film itself? What did you guys think of the movie? What did you expect before we get into what we actually saw?
I'll let Adam get into it first.
It was weird, right? So one thing the Criterion channel does that I guess something like a Netflix doesn't necessarily do is the plot synopsis is a lot more like in depth.
Yeah.
And the plot synopsis for this is pretty long and does nail out the plot, and it even mentions like one of the weirdest things about this whole film is the presence of dogs, and it like throws that out there in that synopsis. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be weird, and like the first like 5 minutes do nothing but set you off on this is definitely different to like anything else we've covered. It's not just about like this shallow footballer, there's more to it, and yeah. And we'll get into it as we talk about it. It definitely goes places for sure.
Yeah. For me, I mean, I didn't really read much about the movie before I watched it. I kind of just looked at the poster. And for me, I thought it would be more about a shallow footballer, Cristiano Ronaldo type, who, by the way, the actor looks a lot like Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, it's scary how much he looks like Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah, I mean, just maybe a dumbed down or far-fetched biopic of Cristiano Ronaldo, but what I saw was totally not that. It was totally different, hit on a lot of themes that I'm sure we'll get to. But yeah, it was interesting to say the least. It was very, very different, as Adam alluded to before.
Yeah. I first came across this film, I think I was looking at, so with everything being canceled because of COVID, I started looking at TIFF's website to figure out what they were going to do if they had any plans. And this was actually in 2018, I think it was. So a film about a Portuguese soccer star. I mean, I had to choose this for my week on Matchday Matinee. Just by looking at the poster, it looked almost like Drive, that Ryan Gosling movie. So I figured it'd be kind of like
that 80s stuff. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, like synth soundtrack and just really a stylized kind of fun romp. But like you guys are alluding to, it's nothing. It is somewhat like that, but it's more of a satire on that, and there's a lot to unpack. It touches on everything from like neo-fascism to the role of a macho soccer player.
Yep.
In our current era.
Refugee crisis,
homosexuality, exactly, you were saying refugee crisis in Europe, Brexit a little bit. So there's definitely layers to this film. It's not a shallow fun romp as I had expected with a good soundtrack.
Yeah.
So do you guys want to go through the plot a bit, and then you guys jump in at probably when you have some memorable scenes we want to discuss?
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So this film opens up. It's narrated by Diamantino himself, as we said it. Cristiano Ronaldo lookalike, clearly meant to portray the Portuguese star. It opens up at the semifinals of the World Cup, and we see Diamantino narrating how his experience on the field is almost another level. It's surreal to him. He's almost in heaven. And he's dribbling among a sea of pink fluff and puppies before scoring the match-winning goal. So that's the opening scene. So it kind of sets you off right away that this isn't a Damned United style.
Yeah.
Realistic.
It was hard, right? I tried to find, I know somewhere and I can't find it. There's an interview with Messi from years ago, and somebody's trying to ask him, explain how you do what you do and how you think. And that's what I at first I was like, is this meant to show how like a footballer's completely like at one with themselves when they're just going through the motions and they're like, there's no thought behind it? And I kind of thought, is that what this is meant to display? And he kind of talks about that later, doesn't he? How he's lost the puppies and he just wants to get them back. but it's just such a weird way of visualizing it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think with this movie, it's not so much about the football. It's using football as a vehicle to explain other things that may be going on in the world. And Mark, you mentioned these before. So it was interesting to see that from my perspective anyways.
Yeah, it's definitely it's out there. It's definitely a surrealist film, almost like a John Waters, or like there's been some weird, like I guess like Repo Genetic Opera was like this weird movie I'd watched before, and it's kind of like almost like a Cronenberg-ish thing. Like you're not really sure what you're getting into, but you just kind of it's almost like some Oscar films where you watch it and you don't want to say you don't understand what's going on because you just want to appear like it's like you're like kind of in the know.
Kind of,
So it's kind of like that, yeah. But
yeah, and it's really deep because I'm trying to think in my head what genre I would classify this movie in, and I can't put my finger on it.
No, it's definitely like a genre bending film. There's no way to say it's just one genre at all.
I don't know if you guys watched that. There's a making of on Criterion. It's kind of like an interview with the two filmmakers, and they called it like a satirical comedy. And when they look back at some of their like influences, it's all like black and white satire, like comedic films that inspired them. But yeah, it weaves in and out of that comedy. Like there are funny moments, but not. It's weird humor, right? Like they're still getting to the sisters. Like it's not normal, kind of. And even like the puppies, I assumed they were going to be some sort of comedy vehicle when I first saw them, but they're not at all. Definitely goes between.
They're kind of funny until they become really mean spirited. And then it loses like that innocent about it, much like Diamantino. But yeah, so he scores the winning goal at the World Cup, semifinals of the World Cup, and he moves on to the World Cup with Portugal, the World Cup finals. We then see him on his personal yacht with his father. So his father is still alive in this. In real life, Cristiano Ronaldo grew up without his father later on in life. And he notices a drone in the sky. And it's at this point that we cut to a pair of lesbian tax auditors who are working for the Secret Service. And they're spying on Diamantino because they suspect him of money laundering. So a lot of stuff in this movie is taken from Ronaldo's real life. I mean, at some point he was under investigation by the Spanish authorities.
Oh yeah, a whole bunch of players were, weren't they? Kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
And bought their way down.
That was one of the catalysts for him getting out of Real Madrid. But while on the yacht, he sees refugees in a boat trying to come ashore, and this kind of astonishes Diamantino. So it's kind of hard to believe at that point he didn't even know what refugees were. Yeah, he sees them. He's kind of like, "What Fugees? What are these refugees?" So his father has to explain to him. Yeah, they're people seeking.
Another thing they describe in that making of thing. They call him an exceptionally vacant man, and it's like, that is true. Like he's completely just vacant and doesn't understand the world at large, like at all.
No, he's very sheltered, and I will get back to it. But there's something about that kind of mirrors something in the real world. But we'll get back to that. So. Seeing these people on the yacht, it traumatizes him deeply, and he leaves him unable to perform at the finals of the World Cup. So we get that big match with Portugal finally at the finals. They've never made it there. It's been semifinals twice for us, unfortunately.
Right.
But him being unable to perform and see the puppies leaves him this embarrassed mess on that national stage. And then we get shots of Diamantino sitting on the ground crying, and I don't know if you guys noticed it, but it was very reminiscent of CR7 at the 2016 Euros in the finals.
Yeah.
All right, so he's sitting there, he's crying. People are calling him the crybaby, which was Ronaldo's nickname when he was younger.
Yeah.
So we do get these shots of him that are clearly inspired by the real footballer. So at the same time as this is happening, Diamantino's sisters, who are clearly only leeching onto him for his money, like Adam said, they're very mean to him. They're antagonizing his father until his father actually passes away from a stroke. So Diamantino has a chance to win the World Cup with PK. He misses it. It's blocked by one of the giant puppies. And this leaves him an embarrassed mess on the national stage. So we were introduced to his sisters at this point, his father. What did you guys think of these characters so far?
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to put it out there. Portugal versus Sweden World Cup final. That's realistic. But
come on, man.
Sorry. I should say Portugal making it there with the current team, probably realistic. Sweden, not so much.
Chance. Yeah, they've been like an also around for so long now.
Yeah. But yeah, his sisters are bitches, man. Like it's crazy. Like he describes them as my sisters are always angry, and it's like it's beyond that. They're bitchy. They're literally bitchy, right? Like
and it's not him. It's not his football match. If you're going to say there's a cause of the death, it's not him. It's the sisters yelling and screaming that kills the dad. And they're just insane, and they get worse and worse as the film goes on.
Yeah,
probably the height of it is when you see them chasing a pig around a garden maze, and then a few scenes later they're like slaughtering the pig, and it's just like what the. And you get a feeling like they're so rich they don't need to do that to survive. They're doing that out of some weird fascination, and even when we first get introduced to them is when they're on the boat and they're horrendous there, like swimming in the sea and yelling at him to bring them towels, and they need 2 towels each and so on. It's just like, but you can imagine there's like maybe not necessarily sisters in that fashion, but that that footballers have like latcher-ons, or any sports star does, right? You watch any documentary about anybody, there's always people that are like latching on and not just there for the money.
But even in real life, so Ronaldo himself, he has his family. He's very close with his family, and he's pretty much taking care of all of them. I think he's paid for his sister to run her own store, or she runs the CR7 store, I think, in Lisbon. And then one of his sisters or his mom has actually put out a recording album that he's kind of financed the entire thing. So his real life family is very close to him, but they're not. I don't know him personally, but I would say that they're not this mean to him. At least I would hope not. But it's pulling from real life as much as this movie does.
Yeah.
And then one of the interesting things, so it kind of stuck out to me. I looked into it. When they're playing in the World Cup, you look at the Portugal kits, and there's a sponsor on them.
Sponsors on them, yeah.
There's sponsor on. So I looked it up. So the sponsor on the kit is actually Daedalus, which isn't a real company, but Daedalus was do you guys know the myth of Icarus? Like flew too high to the sun, the wings melted.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it ties into that. So the craftsman was Daedalus, who made the wings for his son Icarus. And there was the myth of flying too high, which is obviously kind of tied into Diamantino himself. And then there was also the maze. So the king of Crete, I think it was, had a maze that I don't want to go too long with this, obviously, but Daedalus's sons went into the maze and had to slaughter the Minotaur. So there's that whole scene with his two sisters chasing through the maze, and Diamantino himself being trapped in that castle. So that's one of the, like, there's, I don't know, there's things like an onion, man. There's so many layers to this movie, and that's just one of them. That's kind of like, how much time do you want to spend dissecting it, right? It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, there's this whole sci-fi element to this film as well, right? Which is with
we haven't even got to that. Yeah,
which is insane, right? I don't know if Mark, you want to get into that, but essentially they're just trying to clone him so they can have a team full of stars for future World Cups, because there's this whole nationalistic movement going down.
So so this happens at the World Cup. He misses the his final shot of winning it, and then his father has a stroke. So he's distraught by his father passing away, being exposed to refugees for the first time in his life. And he goes on a talk show, Giselle, and that's when he announces that he'd like to retire and adopt a refugee. And he possibly says, maybe I'll adopt a refugee from Canada, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, we're accepting refugees, but he figures maybe he'll accept a Canadian refugee. So at this point, these two tax auditors who are dating each other see this, and they decide that now's the time to come up with a plan to go undercover and infiltrate Diamantino's life. So Aisha, one of the two auditors, becomes a boy. She becomes Raheem, and she becomes a he and is adopted by Diamantino. But at the same time, as Regev mentioned, Diamantino's sisters are presented with this opportunity by Portugal's Ministry of Propaganda. And their whole intention is to launch a campaign to leave the European Union. And the National Front wants to start a cloning campaign. They want to clone a starting 11 of Diamantinos that will dominate international football and keep the Iberian country satisfied enough that they'll vote yes to the proposed referendum. And then at the same time, they also want to build a wall. And then there was another Trumpism in there.
Make Portugal great again.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean,
this is so they show that video, don't they? Like the propaganda video, and it's so all the graphical representation is so over the top and stuff. Like it shows like a bomb, and it's like Portugal is at breaking point. What will you do? And as I was watching that bit, though, I was like, I recognized some bits of this that were really close. Watching that making of thing, they said that most of that video, even though the graphics are greatly exaggerated, most of that video is word for word taken from a UKIP ad, and they were the UK Independence Party who led the whole Brexit thing. So it's one of those where it's a little like, it's like actually the satire isn't that satirical. It's like actually reality that they're kind of putting in front of you and putting beneath this like veneer of satire, and really it's actually all too real.
Yep.
So, so all of that stuff about how they're at breaking point and stuff was all in the UKIP video. I think the breaking point thing was specifically talking about healthcare and stuff, and it's just funny. And then using like the imagery, they get him to dress up as a old like Portuguese knight kind of, and the
like colonial. Is that something they did with Brexit as well? They kind of play on that when England was great mentality.
Sort of, Like remember, like retake the British, great, like even just Great Britain alone, the name of that, calling yourself great, kind of. They put a lot of the Leave Party mentality was playing on that and remembering what we used to be, and this is the same, right? Like the director's yelling at him, and that's another instance where he's so absent. He's killing all these I guess they're like Moorish people from Portuguese past, like black people that they were killing, and he's smiling the whole time they're fighting, and it's just like, you dimwit. And he's like,
I didn't make that connection.
It's
he's like smiling away and like you like go like, and it's like he's playing like it's just another game.
It's just playing a game, like a kid. It's definitely a shout out to it's definitely a dig at populism across Europe and North America, right? That's basically what they're trying to show. In a negative light, I guess you can say.
Yeah. Well, they're showing him, like, I didn't realize the race. So they were taking, so Diamantino was killing guys that were of color. So it's an obvious allusion to like Portugal's colonization of like Angola and Brazil, obviously.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting that, I guess the politicalness is such a huge theme in this movie. I totally wasn't expecting that. And then using Diamantino as a spokesperson, and you see this all the time, right? Especially when Trump was running for president, that he gets his, what's the word I'm looking for?
Not contributors,
endorsements, kind of.
Endorsement, that's it. Yeah, he's getting an endorsement from, whoever it is, Kid Rock, let's say, is one endorsement, right? And you know what? Like, I think what they're thinking is a star like Cristiano Ronaldo or Diamantino in this case, right? You get an endorsement from him in an ad, and then the football is good, that's more than likely going to allow you to win the election or the the leave vote or whatever it is.
And then they took it to like comedic heights where they're saying like, we'll get a whole starting 11 of them. So it wasn't even one was enough, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? I find sport actually encourages a lot of nationalism, especially when it comes to international football. And as we know, and we've discussed this in the past, that football and politics are very closely intertwined. An example being if you saw the Germany teams of the 1938 World Cup doing the Nazi salute, and countless other examples. We can see just a very recent example of Mesut Ozil, being chums with Erdogan, quitting the German national team because they didn't respect, him being all chummy with Erdogan. It's very closely intertwined.
It's a huge identifier for people, isn't it? People, and a lot of people intrinsically, the part of their national identity involves the football team inevitably, and there's no separation of the two, kind of. So when somebody like Ozil goes against that grain, people don't like it, right? It's kind of,
even so I was saying before with the Angola, Brazil, the colonies, the refugee was supposed to be from Mozambique, which was another one. So they definitely do play on that. He's accepting somebody back from Mozambique. The Raheem, the fake backstory they came up with her. So at this point, Agent Aisha is sneaking around the house, or Raheem as we should call her or him, and her undercover investigation reveals that Diamantino is actually innocent, and it's the sisters who are stealing from him, and they're laundering all of the money. But during her investigation, they begin to get a little bit too close, and this is confusing. Aisha's lesbian partner accuses Aisha of being too emotionally invested in the case. And then at this point, Diamantino's sisters see security camera footage of the fight between Lucia and Aisha, and realize that Aisha is actually an undercover agent. But leading up to this, we get scenes of Diamantino kind of becoming a paternal figure to Raheem, and he has no idea how to, I guess, accept that role and show love. He
does it through being a child himself, kind of, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Being playful and
bongo juice and waffles.
Bongo juice.
Yeah, when he's like, "Do you have bongo juice?" And it's like, no. And then even when he,
there's Eskimo kiss with the noses.
Yeah, the little kiss with noses, a bit where he says goodnight to her and he's kind of pretending to kick a football up and down, just smiling like the whole time.
Oh, that was awesome, man. He blows the kiss and he dribbles it.
Yeah. It's just
so with this
loving. It's weird, yeah.
Did this remind you guys of like Michael Jackson at all?
I didn't think about that, but literally 30 seconds ago, I was like, he's a man-child. Yeah, it does kind of, if you're to... The way Michael Jackson tried to portray himself in that Martin Bashir documentary, right, as this innocent childlike guy who just loves to be around children, yes, it definitely is trying to evoke that for sure.
I didn't think it initially, but now that you mentioned it, yes, I agree. Yeah,
like spending the night together in bed, and then we see Aisha as a woman, but obviously Raheem to him is a boy, and they're snuggling in bed, and then the weird Eskimo kiss and. Just everything about it, like the toys in the room, and when he's obviously like a 16-year-old boy at least. That's what I got from that, like the whole Michael Jackson man-child, stolen childhood type thing.
The other hilarious thing is obviously he's meant to portray Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm not saying Cristiano Ronaldo obviously like sleeps with. Innocently sleeps with kids or anything like that, but just the whole fact that, his bed sheets and everything have his own face on it. It's like, it's something I expect Cristiano Ronaldo to do.
Did you guys, I don't know, I found it detrimental that he's meant to play Cristiano Ronaldo, but not really. So everything that he was doing, I was kind of comparing to the real life Ronaldo, and I was like, it's almost like the Pele movie where it's sort of a fictional retelling of his life. So I kept on looking at this movie through that lens, and I'm like, this is a Ronaldo movie, but every once in a while I have to stop and say,
you have you've got to make that disconnect kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it wasn't so political, with the political undertones and things like that, then I would say a lot of his acting maybe reminded me of Ronaldo personally. Not now, but earlier on in his career, because I thought, this guy's probably an airhead. He's a great footballer, obviously, but not, doesn't seem like the brightest guy, diamond earrings and just things like that. And like full of himself, right? So like I said, with his own pictures on the bedding and his own posters up on his wall.
Yeah, that's not actually that much of a stretch. I mean, Ronaldo has branded everything at this point.
That he possibly could, yeah.
Yeah, I'll bring it up in a footy fact later on, but there's an extensive list.
Yeah.
So at this point, where were we? The sisters discover that Aisha is actually an undercover agent. So they attempt to kill Aisha, but then they're interrupted by Diamantino coming home. Aisha escapes and she goes to Diamantino, and then they escape to his yacht. So as we mentioned earlier, there's a plot with the clones, right? So Diamantino goes to see a Dr. Lamborghini, which is actually the Ministry of Propaganda, the Portuguese Ministry of Propaganda. And they're beginning this cloning process on him. And he goes along with the plot willingly because he believes that they're actually just trying to get him, help him get his mojo back. Yeah. But then he begins to have reservations about the whole process when hormones are being pumped into his body to produce these clones. And what happens? He's starting to grow breasts.
Yeah, it's clownfish hormones, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Actually, that scene was hilarious too. When he's going into the lab and he's talking about all these different things. He's like, oh, there's clams that talk and fish that look like zebra. Like everything leading up to that was kind of like, oh, there's clams that talk. That's weird. And then there was one other thing I can't remember, but then the zebra fish is one like, oh, this guy's just an idiot.
Yeah.
Like these are just animals he's never seen.
One of the scientists at one point says that his brain is functioning at 10% of its capacity of a young child.
Just a complete idiot. Yeah.
And it's just like they ask him what his diet is, and he's like, He's like Oreos, Nutella, waffles, and bongo juice. He's like, what everyone eats. And it's just like, what the no? I'm not eating like that since I was a child. Yeah. And now as an athlete, that's all you eat? Like,
yeah, I loved it. And then there was she asks him, so when was the last time you've had sex? And he's like, last time? He's like, I've never done that. Must be cool.
And he's like,
it sounds difficult.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's very anti-Ronaldo because Ronaldo's like been around.
Yeah. He's had his share of models and stuff. And so at this point, Diamantino is growing breasts and he's ashamed of them. So he covers them up. And then he even has the photo shoot, which we just talked about with the propaganda campaign. And they have him expose his chest, but you full out see the breasts. But for some reason, they still make that into the campaign, strangely enough.
And even their reactions are weird. That's what's weird, right? Because in a certain type of film, him growing breasts is like a punchline to a joke or something, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, but by that point, my brain had disengaged. I was like, that's not what's going to happen. So he takes his top off and they all just look at him and ask him to still deliver the lines, which he kind of does like half-assed. And it's just like, that's when you start to realize where part of this film is potentially going, which is interesting. And it's just a weird way of going about it. And it's kind of a lot of this film, it like subverts your expectations of what that is, right? The context of them pumping him with his jeans and him growing breasts, you assume it's going to be some hilarious scene, and that's not ultimately what it becomes.
Yeah, I mean, they pumped Messi full of HGH, but he didn't grow breasts. So
no.
That was my one dig at Messi. Yeah, so there is kind of also that kind of subtext of, is Diamantino homosexual too, right? Like he spends time with this boy in his bed and then him growing breasts. And then the scene that we're at right now, he's in his yacht and he's standing in front of the mirror naked, staring at himself. And it's almost like he's trapped in a female's body almost, or from the top half. Like he's somewhere in between, right? And at this point, he still believes that Aisha is Raheem, a boy. And Raheem comes downstairs to the yacht and reveals that she also has breasts, which are wrapped up. And then she unwraps hers, they embrace. And then we cut to the next morning. So we're not exactly told what happens, but we can assume that they had sex.
I was just going to say, this is I had to look up because I'm an English student. So there's a lot of this sort of stuff is in Shakespeare, where there's these people that become friends. And the one obvious example I could remember that I'd read is Twelfth Night. Basically, it's almost the same thing. There's a character that becomes shipwrecked in order to kind of disguise herself and find out what's going on and where her brother is. She basically becomes a consulate to a duke, but dressed as a man. And then the duke becomes so reliant on him, she's called Viola, I think. And then they basically fall in love. And the same thing kind of happens in that. At the end of the film, she reveals that she's actually a woman. And he's like, oh my God, well, you're like the perfect person for me. The only thing that was stopping me was that you were a man and now you're a woman. This is brilliant. And I'm pretty sure the play ends. The play basically ends with two marriages and one of them being that one. And this film's like identical to that kind of subplot of how like you can love a person and then that reveal actually doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess like the fluidity of sexuality, I guess, is what they're
Which
it's
seems very modern, but then in reality it's not. Like it's been in like 12th
that's what I was going to say, like
made in the 16th century.
Right.
Yeah, everything's been written by Shakespeare and everything since then is an iteration of it. So
yeah.
No, 100%.
It's not surprising, So we're at the point where the next morning Diamantino's sisters text him with a video of Aisha and her girlfriend Lucia arguing who's wearing that crazy nun outfit. And I've seen a ton of Portuguese nuns. I've never seen that outfit before. I even Googled it. So I don't think
I actually had that as a question. Do nuns wear bunny ears in Portugal? Because I was like, I've never seen a nun anywhere I've been.
Not that I've seen. I mean, my parents aren't from, so a lot of this movie is around Lisbon. You see a lot of Lisbon imagery here. The explorers, that statue of the explorers, the castle by the waterfront there, downtown Lisbon. But Diamantino himself is actually from the Azores, I'm assuming, much like Cristiano Ronaldo. But those nuns, I've never seen it before, to come back to that main point. But maybe it is in Lisbon. I've never seen it. So the next morning, they text him the video of Aisha and her girlfriend Lucia arguing and then making out in Diamantino's home. And they trick him into believing that, so we missed this point. So the two sisters actually have an offshore account. So the Secret Service is auditing Diamantino to see if he has offshore accounts. He doesn't. He's an innocent kid. But the two sisters do. And at that point, they funnel his money into their offshore Panamanian account.
And there's another bit of satire, right? Because there was that whole Panama accounts leak thing, wasn't there, a couple of years ago, that they unearthed a bunch of celebrities, politicians, everybody funneling money into Panama accounts, right?
And then it just kind of went away. Nobody really cared about it. Well, it went away on our side of the world, I think, because there wasn't that many people implemented in it in North America, from what I remember. But it was more of an issue.
Mostly European.
European, right? Yeah. So it turns out that the sisters are the ones funneling the money away from him, but they trick Diamantino into believing that it was his son, Raheem, who was actually Aisha. Then the sisters kidnap him. They bring him to the cloning facility. And then the last phase is to transfer his genius, as they call it, which I'm guessing is his footballing genius, because the guy's an idiot. So maybe, I don't know, I guess he's an idiot savant, like a footballing idiot savant. Yeah. But he's too dumb to go through this process, and completing the process would kill him. Complete idiot. So the last phase fails because Diamantino is too dumb. He doesn't have enough brain power to make the transfer. And then at this point, Aisha breaks into the facility, and then she uses these fencing skills that she's learned from Diamantino to kill both of his sisters. And then she kills the main scientist that's doing all these experiments on Diamantino, Lamborghini. But she gets shot. Diamantino saves her from being drowned by stabbing the scientist through the head. They escape. And then at some point, Diamantino gets his mojo back. And we see this by him walking around, dick out, on the soccer field among the dogs and the pink fluff.
And the ball's like floating, like he's in control of it, kind of. And just
his balls are floating, the ball's in the air.
Yeah. He can just do whatever he wants. He's free.
Yeah.
Puppies everywhere.
So I was wondering, I'm like, how is this ball just floating around? I thought it was like, and then you're saying it now, so it kind of makes sense. It's almost like a Neo Matrix level of consciousness.
Like he's complete, he's like transcended, beyond footballing mortal, kind of.
Yeah, that makes more sense. So Diamantino, he gets his mojo back. He decides to give up soccer, and then him and Aisha live happily ever after on a beach, nude. And it's possible this is a dream sequence, but we're never actually told. And we're never actually, they don't wrap up the storyline with Aisha's girlfriend, Lucia, but we can assume that...
you see her speeding off on a Vespa, right? I guess that's it.
Yeah. Oh, and then we get the scene where the nun tells the two sisters, she tells Aisha to fuck off or fuck you or something like that. Yeah. And then the two sisters, who have been calling people like see you next Tuesdays and
everything under the sun.
Like homophobic slurs the entire movie. They hear the nun say this and they're like, the nun just said fuck you, that's rude. And then
nuns don't speak like that.
Yeah, exactly. Not ones to judge. But that wraps up our movie. So
there's one bit we missed, just a bit. Sorry.
Go for it.
Going back to that final, I guess the fight scene when Aisha storms into the facility, and they, having been dressed as a man the entire time, they completely, I think it's another satirical like Hollywood thing. They completely sexualize her. She's just magically in like a yellow bikini and has a sword, and it's just like, okay, so now this is like a scene from like Charlie's Angels or something.
Right.
It's kind of ridiculous. And the way she so deftly kills the twins just with a quick swipe of the sword, it's just ridiculous, because she's not, I know she'd learnt the skills off him, but he wasn't particularly he didn't show the prowess in those earlier fight scenes to necessarily show that she could just do that with a whip of and she's meant to be a tax investigator, so why would she have those skills?
There's sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
No, I was just gonna say, with the ending of the movie, it just kind of seemed like the directors were like, let's take as much nudity as we can and put it towards the end of the movie.
Yeah.
That last scene is like, that's pretty nude, man.
It's weird, isn't it? When he's in that weird like Matrix scene, you see like a tiny bit of like dick and balls, like
twigging berries from behind,
and then at the end they're just like full, just like go for it, get it all out, and whatever angles we catch, we're just gonna put it in the film.
what's hilarious is this movie is rated a PG apparently on IMDb. So, but no, so you watched the movie before both of us, and you texted me and you were like, "Hey, just a heads up, there's nudity in this in case your kid is hanging around when you watch this." So I was like, "Okay, it's a European movie, whatever." And then the first bit of nudity we get is that Diamantino takes his shirt off and he has tits, and I'm like,
"It's a Portuguese PG, man. It's a Portuguese PG."
But it wasn't that. It was not what I expected, I guess.
It's not gratuitous in any way. It's just like, hey, there's nudity here and we're not going to try to cover it up. We don't care to.
Yeah. But so going back to what you guys were saying about how the end is really surreal and nothing really makes sense, I think it's because the movie is narrated by Diamantino. Like even from the beginning when he's talking about she did this, but she was busy doing this. And then she didn't know this and she thought I did this, but I'm a good guy. So he's the narrator for the entire movie. And I think like they play with tropes the entire movie, but I think what they're doing is using, it's called an unreliable narrator trope. Where he's telling the story back as he sees it. And his childlike mind, he's imagining all these crazy things happening. He sees the nun and the nun has the bunny ears on her suit, right? Exactly. He's seeing the puppies, and to him, it's 100% real. So, yeah, it's possible we're seeing this movie through his point of view.
Yeah, probably. And even at the beginning, when he's just a voiceover, he's like, Alicia plays the role of Raheem, and I played myself, the dumb fool. Yeah. It's just like, okay. Yeah. It's some idealized version at the end, isn't it? Like, hey, we beat the bad guys. Now let's just go frolic endlessly. Nothing else matters.
Yeah,
there's three of my crazy sisters.
Bit of a weird movie all throughout. So why wouldn't it end that way, right?
Yeah, it has a great soundtrack though too. I don't know if we haven't pointed that out, but the sisters have great taste in music. They listen to like banging club tunes when they're laundering money, and I was like, yeah,
it shut down the music. Oh no! And then "I Love You Always Forever" by Leona Lewis, which I haven't heard in years. When he's cruising the countryside, and then they have some like traditional Portuguese folk music in there when they're dancing on top of the yacht, and then a lot of kind of like epic orchestral music. Yeah. All right. Do you guys want some footy facts from this film?
Footy facts. Let's do footy facts.
Yeah. All right. So the star of this movie, Carloto Cotta, he didn't undergo any soccer training whatsoever to play the role that was loosely based on Cristiano Ronaldo. So instead, all he opted to do was just focus on making sure his abs looked completely shredded. And it makes sense, like the amount of times you see him without a shirt in this movie, but...
And it also makes sense when we get to talk about footy flicks. I had this weird, when he's running, he doesn't look like how a footballer would run.
Nope.
There's a lot of bits where he's like dipping his head forward, almost like he's a sprinter trying to put his nose over the line, which just doesn't make sense. That figures.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, there's no way this guy had any kind of football training, because especially in the first scene when he's apparently, going around all those players in the semifinal of the World Cup, I'm like, that's not how you would normally dribble. It's like one tackle by a Virgil van Dijk or something like that, and you're done, right?
But again, that was in his imagination, right? He's just flowing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So who knows? So Cotta picked up the accent of his personal trainer from the Azores. So. This is actually where Ronaldo's from, the island of Madeira.
Yeah.
And that's why his accent is really kind of unique and distinct. So it's kind of cool to hear that kind of enunciation in his voice, which is clearly different from like a typical Portuguese accent. So how much rougher.
So how different are the accents actually? Like if you were to put it within English terms, is it like a American versus British or Canadian versus British, or is it more like a North Carolina versus Texas?
It's pretty different. I mean, it almost gets rougher the further out you go. So Lisbon is kind of a more refined accent. And then you get to the Azores, which was more like a working class, and it gets a little bit kind of rougher, obviously.
Right.
And then from there you go to Brazil, which is still Portuguese, but at that point it's yikes.
So it's like posh. It's like posh versus Scouse.
Yes. Yeah, there you go, man. It's definitely like that. An underwear campaign was created specifically for this film, and you can see that in the billboards when they're driving around Diamantino's car trips. You see him in his with his glistening abs and the underwears on the billboards. And throughout the film, you also see a ton of like Diamantino branded caps, the pillows, the bed sheets. That's like the D with a little diamond in the corner. Raheem's outfitted with it at one point. And this is an obvious homage to like Ronaldo's many endorsement deals, which includes CR7 branded restaurants, hotels, jeans, shampoo, tea, headphones, and obviously the list goes on, but we have a 1 hour podcast, so I'm not going to go on with that.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Any comments on the CR7 stuff? What's your take on that? Should he get his money while he can, or?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. They found something that was brandable and it's kind of stuck, right? So why the hell not?
Yeah, no.
He's not alone in trying to do that, right? Like other footballers have tried to do it now, like trying to copy him, I guess, and people have done it before him, so why the hell not?
Yeah, I'm 100% of the opinion that if a market exists for a product that you want to create and people are going to buy it, then you should do it.
Even if it doesn't exist, you put the product out there and somebody's going to buy a couple of it. I mean, you're rebranding like DHgate stuff anyways, so...
Yeah. No, it's all power to him for making money. And footballers have to think outside of just their salary, right? Because that's going to end eventually. So how are you going to continue making money after that? And that's what I always say, right? That, some people say footballers are paid too much. I'm like, listen, they have a limited career in the game. They've got to make as much money as they can.
Yeah. I mean, even now you look at the COVID pandemic, right? So suddenly all these guys have almost a year off football, and it's like, yeah, they're still getting paid. Most of them are still getting paid, but their wages are getting garnished, and anything can happen, right? You can pick up an injury in the middle of a career. You can see a refugee boat going ashore and suddenly become traumatized and you no longer play. But I mean, anything can happen and end your career, like you were saying.
Yeah, exactly. And nobody says the same thing about like actors and actresses, but when it comes to athletes, they're like, why do these people get paid so much? And it's because, you know what, they provide a similar level of entertainment. They're absolutely talented, just like actors are talented in their craft. These athletes are talented at their sport, and people pay subscription services to actually watch these people. So why shouldn't they get, the money that they command? There's very limited amount of people that can actually do that job that well.
Do you think it's like almost like loyalty too? Because I mean, if an actor, like say your favorite actor said, I'm only going to make films for the Chinese audience. Yeah. Would you be upset at that if you took a payday? Like, who's your favorite actor?
That's a very good question. I'm not sure who my favorite actor is, to be honest. Okay, I have a bunch. Let's say De Niro. Let's say De Niro.
Yeah. So, De Niro says, I'm only going to make Chinese language films. If you want to watch, you can watch it with subtitles.
Perfect. Good for him. It's his craft. It's his craft. It's his craft, right? They're also paid. You got to also realize these actors, yes, they get endorsements, but they're also only paid on a project by project basis. So you have a Chinese movie that's going to pay you 20 million, 25 million, whatever it is, go do it. Right?
Yeah, why not? Like Tim Roth went and made United Passions, right? I think he's a good actor and don't support his making that movie, but whatever. No. Do what you're going to do. But I guess the Chinese thing's a bit different. You can compare it to a footballer, right? Like anytime a really good player leaves the Premier League, I'm usually pretty disappointed whether I care about that team or not, because it's like I don't get to see that player week in, week out anymore.
Well, Javinko, right?
Javinko, for sure.
Yeah, it's a good example,
But definitely deserves to make as much money as he can. But like actors, athletes also, you're eventually judged, I guess, on where you play, the level that you're playing at, and how much exposure you actually have to the fans. And it's the same in movies, right?
Yeah, it's a good balance. Like you were saying, it's a good analogy. So like actors, if they're only doing these crappy direct-to-video movies, you're going to judge them on that. And footballers, if they're going to take a payday and head out to Saudi Arabia, then you're not putting yourself. It's like Neymar going to PSG, right? Yep. He wanted to be the big fish in the little pond, and he's getting judged for that now, obviously.
Yeah. It's the same like Javinko, right? I mean, he, for whatever reason, right? There's different reasons, but he joined Toronto FC, and for us as Toronto FC fans, he's like amazing. We love him, right? Yeah. But you talk to people across the pond, it's like, yeah, Javinko used to play for Juventus, but you know what? It's easy to do well at Toronto. Like that's what they judge him with. Yeah. He was making $7 million a year here. That's more than he would have made in Europe.
Yeah,
so it's very similar.
For that though, right? Like I think he got one cap with the Italian team after that.
Yeah, that was
after his move to Toronto.
It's very shortly after he made the move.
Oh, it was 2015 because he made it back in time for the playoff.
Yep, for the playoff. But that was his first season, no? That was his first season, anyways.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Then he never got called up again.
But because he was playing in Toronto, right? But I think we're off on a tangent here.
Yeah, we're off on a tangent.
One more fast fact and then a somewhat fast fact. So this film won multiple awards, including the Critics' Week Grand Prize at the 2018 Cannes Film Festival in France. And that's the very same film festival that United Passions was entered in.
Way.
Did United Passions win anything at that Cannes Film Festival?
No.
Okay.
Oh my God, no.
Of course not.
Actually, this film, so we had the joke last week. So United Passions showed in one theater in the US, and I think it made $9. Something like that.
Yeah.
This film did show in one theater as well. Yeah. I'm not sure what state this showed in, but it showed in one theater and made about $7,000, which is respectable.
That's not bad, you know.
Yeah.
More than $9.
Movie, yeah.
Last fast fact, I think the blue and white kits that they had in the first couple of matches are dope, and those should definitely be brought back for Portugal and get rid of the turquoise kits. That's my opinion.
You know what's weird? There's a scene later on in the film where they're playing FIFA, right? And they're playing in the regular Portugal kit. And I had a thought, I was like, they should have used Pro Evo and made the kits to look the same as the ones they were using in the game.
That's not bad.
It's a chance to miss something there, right? Could have shown him celebrating in that exact same kit. Instead, they were just obviously playing Portugal national team as they appear in FIFA, but missed opportunity.
Yeah.
That broke the realism for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Definitely not the dogs.
Absolutely.
Anything else you guys want to touch on from this very interesting movie?
No, not really. I mean, obviously we know it's a very heavy movie, very heavy themes, even though it's told in a very outlandish sort of way. But yes, definitely, like we mentioned, populism, the refugee crisis. So I was surprised that the directors were actually able to take such a far-fetched storyline and touch on all these themes. I don't know whether I'm impressed or not, but yeah, man, it was interesting for sure.
It was co-directed by a Portuguese director and a US-born director. So I guess they had that point of view from East and West, right?
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Gave them a chance to kind of see the Trump government and then Brexit at the same time. They just kind of mashed that together with the European refugee crisis. So yeah, they touched on everything in a satire point of view, but also, it kind of made us think about it, right? And I think we had some good discussion on it here, even though the film is billed as a fantasy comedy.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Right. So what are you guys rating this movie? 5 stars. Or Gev?
That's a lot of pressure, man. I have a feeling you guys are going to rate this a lot higher than I am, but I'm going to go with a solid 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's better than I expected.
Yeah. How about Adam?
I'm going to say it's like a 3 for me. There's a lot of good there, but it's not incredible. I just think, I do like weird films, and even though this does go a place I wasn't expecting, I still enjoyed it. And I think it helps the film that it very early on starts with this stupid, like for whatever reason, the dog thing, I thought that would be towards the end of the film as it got more surreal. But then to start off with that, I was like, so as I went through the film, I knew what to expect, right? So then I was like all in. I was like, okay, this is going to be different. I'm going to buy into it. And I think I did buy into it to some extent, despite not, until we've sat and discussed some stuff, I didn't understand some parts of it, right? But now I kind of do. And it's a good film. I'm going to say 3.
Yeah.
Cool.
How about yourself, Mark?
I'm going to go 3.5.
Wow.
Like Adam was saying right at the beginning, when they kind of show the dogs and the surrealism, and he was the narrator of it, he's telling his own story. Right away, I bought into it. I was kind of expecting this movie to start out realistic, and then...
exactly.
Yeah. Have you guys seen that Netflix show, Living with Myself, the Paul Rudd one?
No.
Yes. Yeah. Where he's the way he sort of clones himself, right?
Yeah. So I thought it was going to be like that, where it starts very realistic and then maybe he goes on like a drug-induced trip. But like you're saying, it starts right off at the beginning, surreal. So I was like, okay, I'm in. And then on top of that, it's a really like neat and tidy 90 minutes. So it doesn't drag it out. I was kept entertained for the whole thing. So I enjoyed it. I mean, I'm going to give it a 3.5, but obviously you guys can tell by now I rate movies a little highly. So
yeah, like even for me, I'm just from my point of view, like for me, it's a very kind 2.5, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
the other thing as well, I think it gets a lot of points for me personally. I think all its like satire is like spot on.
Yeah, for sure.
They nailed all that stuff. I think it gets a lot of points for that, for still being able to have the balls in like an artsy, like ethereal, like surreal film to still like go for the like pack its punches satirically still.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what the trouble the trouble that I have with it is that, do people rate this film, or are critics giving it awards because they touch on populism and the refugee crisis and all these political themes? Or is it because the movie actually shows them in a really good way? I think it's the former. I think it's just because those themes were mentioned that it gets rated highly.
I think it did generate discussion first, though, right? Like, it satirizes those topics. It's almost like Parasite. Have you guys seen Parasite?
I have not yet.
No.
But it's almost like that, right? It's a weird kind of comedy, but at the same time, it's a critique on like capitalism, right, and class warfare. But at the same time, it gets you kind of discussing like, oh yeah, I guess this was an analogy for this or an allegory for this. So I mean, I think they were successful in doing that in this film. So that's why I'm kind of rating it higher.
It's definitely not a bad movie. So put it this way, like, it's not a bad movie, but I don't think I'd ever watch it again. That's just me, though.
Whereas I think I will. Like, I was sat thinking I'm probably going to try and watch this the second time, especially after I watched the director's chat, and I was like, yeah, I think there's more I'd like to kind of see again in this.
Maybe I'll watch the director's chat. Actually, maybe I'll do that.
It's not too long. It's like 20 minutes to kind of talk about a lot of what their inspiration was and stuff. It's well worth the investment for 20 minutes, right?
Where did you find that?
It's on the Criterion channel. Like, if you're on the film page, it kind of pops up there.
Yeah, because I heard you mention that. And then when I was watching the actual movie, there was a second set of subtitles that were the directors discussing, like, it was a director's commentary, but it was presented in subtitles. So I thought that's what you had mentioned earlier. I couldn't find the other one.
Yeah, it was just there as like another video underneath on the page, kind of.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
Did you guys want to touch on the footy flicks really quickly? I know we did a little bit,
right?
But maybe we can just as quickly discuss the actual footballing scenes.
The few that there are.
The few that there are. Maybe Adam, you can go first and tell us what.
Pretty bad, to be honest. Even just everything about it, when he's taking that penalty that ultimately loses Portugal the World Cup, just his run up looks weird, and I guess they're trying to, like, his facial expression, he's nervous and stuff, so it makes sense. But every time he's dribbling, it just looks so unnatural and weird. It's just like, and for something, so like the puppies and everything and the pink smoke and everything are meant to show this like perfect, like Zen-like football experience, and then for him not to be doing that quite right, kind of, it did take me out of it a little bit, as ridiculous as that sounds, when there's massive puppies running around. I just didn't buy into him being this super football star. But in terms of spectacle, like the stadium and stuff, that all looked as cool as it's going to look, like packed stadium. They said in the making of thing, again, they said they actually used stock footage that was used in the 2018 Russian World Cup promotional material as well, which is kind of weird for them. They were like, oh, when we saw the Russian World Cup, we noticed, like, scene for scene, there was the same stock footage that we had used of the crowds and stuff. So that was a bit awkward.
Well, so here's the other thing. I think when he's like going past players and stuff, I don't think there's like actual people that he's going past. I think it's just a green screen.
Yeah, I think it's all green screen. Yeah.
So it looks awkward because he's not really going past anybody, right? And you can kind of tell.
Yeah. They briefly show in the documentary and the making of thing, there is like green screen. Obviously, they green screened the puppies and stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure.
To make them massive. So then, they briefly show him stood on a green screen stage. So it's definitely how they filmed it.
Yeah. How about yourself, Mark? What are your thoughts on some of the footy flicks?
Yeah, you can tell it's in front of a green screen. I think somewhere I was reading that they filmed the whole thing with like 16 millimeter film, so it is very grainy, and you see that throughout the movie when there's some dark scenes. And then you can see that contrast, I'm guessing. So stock film was shot with like whatever HD cameras, and then putting the 16 millimeter film in front of that causes that kind of disconnect.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know, man. When it comes to footy flicks, I think I'm looking at these as like off pitch. Like, I'm always looking at like how they're filmed and the kind of like vibe or like aura you get off these things. I don't know, man. If I want to watch like I'll go watch like a soccer match if I want to see like how they're playing.
100%.
Like, I've been watching those World Cup documentaries that you recommended a few episodes back, and they do a really good job of not just showing you the goal highlights, they'll show you like cinematic takes of those goals and like cuts and slow-mo and the right music at the right time, kind of. So if you wanted to see actual football in motion, you'd go watch something like that for sure.
You know who does that really well? The NFL actually does that portion of, sometimes they show highlights, but they show them in like a very cinematographic, like, like a, whatever word I'm trying to say kind of way. And It looks amazing. It looks like a movie, like somebody shooting a movie. Like it looks crazy the way they show it.
Well,
NFL Films is like well known for that.
Even NBA as well, right? We're kind of around the year anniversary of that Leonard, the Kawaii, like last minute shot where it bounced in the net. Even the way people were showing that replay of it bouncing is very as it happened, but it's been shown from very like cinematic angles, right? To make it look as dramatic as they can.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to suck now when soccer comes back and it's all like closed stadiums.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a very oddly sanitized way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess they'll have more opportunities to film them uniquely, but at the same time, it's going to have it's going to miss.
For sure. It's going to miss
I
the
don't think they
ambiance.
will. I don't think they will film it unique. At least not for now. Maybe as this rumbles on if it rumbles on into next year, they might. But I think to get these seasons finished, I don't think they're going to put the effort into doing that stuff, unfortunately.
I think really quickly, just for my footy flicks that I obviously we've talked about the first couple of scenes, but I think what I found the funniest is when he's shooting a commercial. This is after he realizes he has breasts, and he wears that shirt and he has like his hand like above like over his chest, but then he runs up and he takes that penalty in the commercial. It is quite literally the weakest penalty I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Instantly made me think of like Gareth Southgate Euro 96 against Germany, just straight to the keeper. Like,
So that was my...
Is that because he lost his mojo? Because that's the same PK he took against the dog.
Yeah, it has
I don't know. Maybe. But it was hilarious. I'm like... I've seen like kids soccer where there's like better penalties taken.
I think this is like an art house film, and I don't think anybody's watching it for the soccer anyways. So
no, for sure, no. It was interesting. I mean, for sure. I mean, I don't want to slate the movie too much, but it was definitely interesting and something very out of the box that you wouldn't expect.
I think arguably the best like in stadium scene is when he's having nightmares and he has one of the stadiums filled with water and the refugee boats just floating through the stadium. Right. It's probably the most powerful like in stadium shot there is in the whole film. I would think personally, it's different, but it's not really a footy flicks. I guess he is playing. I think he is playing football at the beginning of that, and it slowly floods or something, and then the boat's there, and the camera kind of pans out, and the whole stadium's full of water.
Yeah, it's cool.
No, for sure. So we're at the end of footy flicks. I think it's time to get into trivia.
All right, boys. So I'll tell you the current score. Give me 1 second here.
So Mark is the quizmaster this week.
I'm the quizmaster. Yeah. We are currently locked at 8 points apiece for myself and Adam in first place. And Regev, you are just behind at 5. But again, you can catch up today if Adam gets I guess if you get a clean sheet and Adam and Regev gets 3.
All right, I've got to have to be on my A game today, so let's go.
So I tried to center a lot of these questions around Cristiano Ronaldo. Obviously, the film is inspired by him and Portugal and teams that he's played for.
Yep.
So, Regev, I'm going to throw the first question to you.
Sure.
Which club did Cristiano Ronaldo score his first Manchester United goal against?
Freak. I'm just going to have to totally guess here. Was it West Ham United?
Adam, do you want to answer this?
I don't remember. I'm trying to think.
Not for any points. Okay. I'm disappointed in you, man.
I'm trying to think. It's probably... Portsmouth. Wait.
There you go, buddy.
It was a free kick. Yes.
Ronaldo scored his first goal against Portsmouth on November 1st, 2003.
To be honest,
maybe?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really watch Manchester United games, so I wouldn't know.
It just touches on everything, man. Trivia can come from anywhere. We can be talking about a goal from 1936.
That's fine.
Actually, we did last week.
You know what? I'd probably have better luck answering a question about 1936 than any Manchester United question.
Okay, Adam, you're up.
Okay.
Cristiano Ronaldo was Manchester United's first Ballon d'Or winner since which player?
Oh, God. That's easy. Somebody clicking around there on Google.
It's not me.
No. Sorry, I'm checking the score sheet.
I don't know who won it in modern times. There has to be somebody. I'm missing somebody. I'm just going to say George Best.
It was George Best.
Oh, it was?
No way.
That was a Hail Mary. Oh, man.
Jesus.
So, yes. George Best was the last Manchester United player to win it, and that was in 1968.
Right.
Okay.
Regev.
Yep.
In 1995, Portugal captured the Skydome Cup as a round-robin friendly tournament featuring the aforementioned Portugal, host Canada, and one other nation in Toronto. So who was that third competing nation? And I'll give you 4 options here.
Yeah.
Was it Italy, Denmark, Mexico, or Jamaica?
Italy, Denmark, Mexico, or Jamaica?
Yep.
You know what? Honestly, I think the Skydome Cup, obviously Canada is going to be in it. And at 95, probably nobody was supporting them. Portugal, obviously huge Portuguese community. And I'm going to make an educated guess and say because there's such a large Italian community, it would have been Italy.
I'm so sorry, man. It was Denmark. They were the reigning European champions at the time. Yeah. They fielded an alternate 11 side because the European leagues were going on at that time. It was in January. And Italy did not visit, but Jamaica did later that summer for the Carabana Cup.
Wow. I didn't know we had all these cups. That's amazing.
Well, no, yeah. That's cool.
All right. So better hope Adam loses this one. Adam.
Screwed.
Okay. Go for it.
Name La Liga's all-time 3 leading goal scorers.
This is pretty easy, man.
Ronaldo, Messi.
I think I got this one.
What the hell is there's that other guy that played for Real Madrid? Oh shit.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say I don't think it is him. The Hungarian guy, Puskas. I don't think it is him now.
No.
Is it Di Stefano?
No.
Is it Raul?
No, that's who I was thinking.
No.
Of.
Okay.
Timo Thada, mid-century Spanish forward with 251 goals behind Ronaldo's 311 and Messi's 438.
Wow.
Okay.
All right.
This is a good week for me.
This is an awful. It just continues to be awful for me.
Okay, you should get this one.
Okay. Probably not.
Okay, so in August of 2009, Real Madrid and their recent signing Cristiano Ronaldo came to BMO Field to take on Toronto FC.
Yeah.
Now, it was a lopsided 5-1 victory for Los Blancos that evening.
Yeah.
Which young Canadian managed to score? There we go, buddy.
It's like the equivalent of pressing the buzzer before the question finished.
All right, he's back on the board. So, Gabe Gala, he broke Iker Casillas' clean sheet, and he was last seen playing for North Mississauga.
Actually?
Yeah, man. 2016 was the last.
I was gonna did we see him last year? Like,
no. Shake his hand.
The legend. You know what? That's something that'll live with that kid for the rest of his life, right? He scored against Real Madrid while Ronaldo was playing.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I was going to give you 3 options actually: Gabe Gala, Nana Adekora, and Ali Garba.
TFC questions, man. I've got this.
Okay. And Adam, you're up. In 2006, the Portuguese Football Federation created the Best Football Player Abroad Award. This was 2006, so Ronaldo has won the award on almost every single occasion since its induction. Since its creation. There is 3 players that have won it, aside from Ronaldo. Name one of these 3.
Best Portuguese player abroad, so playing outside of since 2006. When did Figo retire? He might be too old.
I'm going to need an answer, Adam. It's too
I'm
long.
just going to say I'm going to say Bernardo Silva. He's the only other Portuguese player I think of right now.
No.
Who is it? I'm interested to know.
In 2006, it was Deco. He was playing for Barcelona.
Okay.
2010, it was Simão. He was playing for Atletico Madrid.
Yeah.
And then 2014, it was Pepe. He was playing for Real Madrid. So funny enough.
Pepe?
Yeah, man. So all players playing for rivals of Real Madrid.
Yeah.
It's like
Real Madrid himself.
Pepe is like a pity award, man. That guy gets red card left, right, and center.
Yeah, he's like a filthy
but when
defender.
he's focused, he's fired, man.
Yeah, it's true.
when
I know. No, he's good.
Sure.
He rages a bit here and there, but all right, guys. So this was a fantastic episode for me. 1 point apiece. So Adam is still in the lead at 9 points. I'm in second place at 8 points, and Regev, you're coming up on 6 points.
Yeah, I know, but I'm the quiz master next week, so I'm going to be. Am I? Yeah, I am quiz master next week.
Yeah, it's back to you.
Oh man, this is not
all right.
going
Good
well.
game, guys.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah, that was awesome. No, I really enjoyed the quiz this week. It's that time, match day matinee table.
All right.
So let me just quickly run down what we have on the table. So number 1, The Damned United. Number 2, Mike Bassett, England manager. Number 3, Bend It Like Beckham. Number 4, Ultras. Number 5, Pele, Birth of a Legend. Number 6, Final Score. Number 7, Kicking and Screaming. No entries at 8, 9, 10, 11. And then United Passions at number 12.
Yes, they were penalized.
They were penalized.
Yeah.
So let's start with Adam.
This is where it comes hard, right? Because Mark,
Yeah.
you gave this film 3.5,
Yeah.
and then you also gave Ultras 3.5, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I think I gave Ultras either a 3 or a 2.5, I think. I can't remember.
It should be easy
So
for
then
you
it's
guys.
somewhere in that ballpark, but then Ragav, your score was significantly not significantly lower, but you said it was like a high 2.5 from you. So
Yes.
this film's in that lower end for you. So it's hard. It could go anywhere from 4th to 7.
So here's the thing with me, right? So Ultras for me, I think I ranked it 2.5, but it was between 2.5 and 3 for me for Ultras. This is high. This is like very kind 2.5 for me. So I know where I'm putting this. I just want to get your opinion.
I think it's hard. I don't know. It doesn't. If you were to look at it, like Pele kind of touched on that ridiculous football stuff in its own way, whilst being a kind of exhaustive biopic and somewhat fictional of that time. This film's probably better than that, though. But then I don't know if it's better than Final Score, which is a weird thing because Pele's above it.
Have you seen Final Score?
I have not seen Final Score, so I'm going to leave that in 6 because I have no idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, go back and watch that because then you might get an idea of a future film where it falls within that. It's a fun film anyways.
Yeah, it's
Take a break from Gomorrah.
Film. It's decent.
Shit, I rated Pele 2. I rated this 2.5. Do I think this is better than Pele?
That's what I mean. That's why I'm kind of stuck. I think, and I don't know if I think it's better than Final Score ever, but I do. I think I had more fun watching this than I did Ultras, to be honest. In some way, I don't, because for Ultras for me was kind of one note. Other than Lardas and the performance of the lead guy, there wasn't as much I enjoyed about Ultras in some regards. Whereas this was just so bonkers. There were like good performances in different ways. Like he nailed that like absent-minded child adult. Like
he did
completely.
Okay, so yeah, that's one thing I didn't mention. So he did do a really good job portraying Diamantino or Cristiano.
Even the woman that played Alicia and Raheem, she did a really good job of acting like a shy African refugee kind of. She did a really good job of that. Like even down to like moving awkwardly when she first came there and being shy, and then when she was trying to like chasing him and stuff, it was just like this weird, like like it was not something like she wasn't used to having fun, right? Kind of. Yeah.
So let's take a more pragmatic approach. I think all three of us agree that this is definitely higher than Kicking and Screaming at number 7.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, it did a better. Like Kicking and Screaming was a comedy that was not necessarily funny and hit a lot of bum notes. So yes,
where you're getting stuck is Final Score, which I haven't seen, to be fair. So I'm going to defer to you guys. Do you think it's above? Do both of you think it's above Final Score?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that's okay. If you do, then that's cool. I think I enjoyed it more than that. Yeah.
Do you think it's ahead of Pele?
Yes.
Adam.
Sure.
I do too. So I think it's better than Pele.
Okay.
Because
Pele had scenes where Pele had those Jenga scenes where if they had been done in a sense like Diamantino did some scenes, then go full out. You know what I mean? Go through.
Yeah, they were like too realistic, but also too superpowered at the same time in a weird way. Yeah.
So we're arguing for 4th place right now. It sounds like.
So I'm just going to put it out there. I don't think this is better than Ultras.
Okay. I think it's better than Ultras. I enjoyed it more than Ultras, and I really enjoyed Ultras. I just think I rated it a touch too high at 3.5.
You think it's better than Ultras? You think this is right behind Bend It Like Beckham?
Well, behind Bend It Like Beckham is a train wreck, though. Not a train wreck, but I mean, Final Score was good for what it was, an action movie, like a knockoff Die Hard. Kicking and Screaming was terrible, and then United Passions is a crime against humanity.
That won't factor into any conversation, I don't think, ever.
So I'm gonna say it's better than Ultras. It's a very tight margin that it's better than Ultras, but it's better than Ultras.
So I don't think it's better than Ultras, only for the reason that I could relate I can't relate to ultras, but I know that culture. You see it. It has more to do with football in a sense. Where this was just, it was so far-fetched.
Like I think I said in our group chat before, we're not always going to have films where football is the primary thing. Football's often going to be the vehicle for, even like Bend It Like Beckham, right? Football is the vehicle for Jessie's cultural difficulties she has.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, Adam, you're the tiebreaker on this one.
Yeah, Adam's the tiebreaker. Make the call, Adam.
Yeah. I'm saying
I think if we go by the scores, like Mark, you gave this the same score you did Ultras, essentially.
Yeah.
And I'm saying it's higher. I gave it a higher rating than Ultras. I think it has to go fourth.
Has to go fourth? All right, then.
Fourth.
Diamantino's fourth, so Ultra drops down to fifth.
It's our first slight disagreement we've had.
That's all right. We figured it out. We solved the problem. Come on, that's what we do. That's what we do. And then it's right behind Bend It Like Beckham. So the gulf in quality between Bend It Like Beckham is like that traditional top 4 Champions League and like everything else in the Premier League after that. I mean, it's a lot closer now. It's top 6, but so it's like Liverpool and everybody else. Yeah.
It's like a solid top 3, and then after that, it's films of varying quality that all have flaws.
Yeah. I'll actually make it a point to watch Final Score just to see how that stacks up for next go around.
You're working from home now, right?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just put it on while you're doing like office work.
Yeah, you won't miss much.
You won't miss anything. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it seems like it's got some very high profile actors and.
Oh, don't judge it by that.
Yeah, well, if somebody was to judge United Passions by just the actors that are in it.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a fun movie.
So four more movies left to go until the end of season 1. Do we have an idea of what we're doing next week?
I think it was Escape to Victory.
Escape to Victory? Okay.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah,
and then it'll be nice to do an actual soccer movie.
Yeah, so let's do Escape to Victory next week, and then the week after.
Something a bit older.
We've had a Twitter user bothering us to review Meme Machine for quite a while now, so
we'll do that soon. Maybe the week after next. Yeah, maybe the week after next, and then we'll try to wind it down with the last 2 movies and we'll try to make the last movie epic, maybe. Just to shake things up a little bit. Yeah, I mean, that's all to be decided, but Escape to Victory next week. Any other lingering thoughts, guys, or, about Diamantino, about the matchday matinee table?
No, I think we're good,
I feel good. Shaping up.
Excitement. Yeah, at the time of recording, of course, the Bundesliga is about to start in 2 days, so I'm quite excited about it.
Yeah,
but hasn't one team been completely quarantined?
That's in the second. That's in the Bundesliga too, so that's Dresden.
Okay.
So it's going to pose some interesting challenges, of course, when these teams go back and start playing, because it's not only the players that are going to be in a stadium at any given time. It's the match day staff, it's the ball kids, it's the broadcast teams. So it's not like you have a very less amount of people in the stadium. It's still going to be quite a bit. So Germany will be a guinea pig of sorts for the rest of the leagues that seems like they're looking to start up in June.
Yeah.
Syria as well.
Yeah. Anything else, guys?
No. That's it. I mean, remember to rate us wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's iTunes or Google Podcasts, Spotify. Share if you can, and give us feedback. Let us know what you want to see next.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, we're coming towards the end. Adam, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
Flameboy84 on Twitter and Joypad Goalposts on Instagram.
Awesome. Mark?
Mark83 on Twitter and 83football on Instagram.
And for myself, Raghav Sandhu, you can find me at Raghav Sandhu on both Twitter and Instagram. And with that, we've come to the end of our show. So from the terraces to the theater, this is Matchday Matinee. See you next time.